Oh, sure. Not everyone says the 49ers aren't going to be good next year. From the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Sherosian.
It's hot out there. Let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Hold on, one time.
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Sherosian, and this is RamView, the March 6, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair, having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. As the weather turned from sunny and calm to blustery and wet, you could hear it outside the Ram Cave. Glad you're here on this March 6th to talk some football, talk some Rams. And I had this thing come up where I saw this click on social media that talked about how the 49ers aren't going to be bad next year, but they're going to take a step back. And it's like, didn't we say that in January? I know. It doesn't. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out, but it just kind of set me off. It's like, wait a second, we were talking about that already. The 49ers, I said they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be good, but they might not be as good as they are right now, or last season. And so I feel like their window was missed. And I don't know. If it's people that watch us all the time, I'm good with it. If it's people that work hard, I'm okay with it. But when it's the KBM who doesn't work hard, much of the KBM doesn't work hard. There are people that do work hard. Then it kind of set me off. All right. Broke, I think it was yesterday morning, whatever it was after Monday's show. The Jaguars put Darius Williams in the street. They franchise tagged Josh Allen, and they got some bills to pay and people to keep. And Darius Williams is a cornerback who's going on 30, and they put him in the street. And he had a great year. I like Darius Williams. I really did. He's a classic example of Rams development, right? Alaric Jackson, Colton Shelton, classic example of Rams development, how you take somebody that nobody wanted and you get clicks out of them. Ben Skoranek, Troy Reeder, Christian Roseboom, where they don't become superstars, but you get clicks out of guys. Ronnie Rivers, Kyrene Williams, 5th round. That's a development, guys. And I like Darius Williams. I really do. That 2020 season he had was amazing, was fantastic. But he's turning 30 this year. And, people are saying, bring Darius Williams home. At 30, is he going to be better than Ahkello Witherspoon at 29? We know what Ahkello gave us last year. A little more familiar with the clubhouse now. Everyone that Darius played with is gone. I don't know. I'm not against it. But I don't know if it's an automatic slam dunk, right? I want him back, and if the price is great, then fantastic. That's great. I'd much rather have Darius Williams than Troy Hill, right? And he was great in 2020. Had that pick 6 against Seattle. But if you remember, most of 2021 he struggled and nearly lost his job to the former Ram, Robert Rochelle. The Rams got out of the Robert Rochelle business pretty fast. But in that 2021 season, he was struggling, got hurt, came back, straightened himself out. Rams won a Super Bowl, earned a contract. He got a nice fat contract with the Jaguars. Good for him. But in 2022, he wasn't very good. And last year, he was lights out. So sometimes he's hit and miss. He's just, you don't know what you're going to get in him. If it's not expensive, put me down as a Darius Williams guy. If it's anything over 5 rocks, then don't put me down as a Darius Williams guy. If you can get him at a modest price, still draft a corner, man, I want depth in that room, right? Give those guys another chance to develop. In terms of, we're going to find out, the jury is going to be settled. It's going to come in on Kobe Durant and Darian Kendrick. And I know everyone thinks it's Darian Kendrick, but Kobe Durant did not have a great year last year. And, injuries, sometimes miscast in that star slot position that Quentin Lake eventually solidified. I think Durant's better on the boundary. And then the guy that people were talking about, one of those so-called steals of the draft, THT, we don't know what we have in him. But I'm not against Williams. I just want to make sure we're very careful about how much we pay for him. How much you pay for a player dictates how much pain you're going to have in the future. Ask the Buffalo Bills and Von Miller. So with that coming up, batting it around with some friends. This didn't come in the form of a question. And notice to some friends out there, I will post a mock draft. I will share a mock draft on Friday's show. I promise. I'm glad I'm waiting a little bit because all kinds of news is breaking almost every day now. And it's going to get more so as the new season commences. I believe it's next Wednesday is March 13th and the new season commences. But just someone said, well, what do you want? What do you want to happen? And so the question came up was, what do I want in free agency in the draft, right? It's what I want. I'm not predicting it. Okay. Does that make sure? So don't come back and say, oh, Joe, you were wrong. No, it's what I want. Okay. And we all know, as Mick Jagger's saying, you can't always get what you want, right? But if you try sometimes, you can get what you need. Okay. I want Coleman Shelton back. I do. I know there's other centers out there. There's that free agent center with the Broncos that looks like he fits the Rams price range, had a nice year. I like continuity along the offensive line. I like, that's how I grew up watching the Rams, continuity. And I think it masks a whole lot of problems when you got continuity. Of course, we want Kevin Dotson back. Yes, I want Kevin Dotson back. And here's the one where people are going to disown me. I want Joe Noteboom back. Find a way. Just find a way to maybe extend him, pick back up some void years, whatever, to diminish that 20 rock hit and such, because I think you're going to need him because someone's going to go down and it's just one more year of this and then you're done with Joe Noteboom. But I'd keep him. That's what I want. I want Carson Wentz back. Someone asked, I think it was the last show, they were talking about Zach Wilson. I'm not against Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's got a magnificent arm. I don't know if he's got it maturity-wise or between the ears, what the Rams are looking for, but that was apparently the deal with Baker Mayfield. He came in and, once he was under some proper leadership, Mayfield's career turned around. Wentz looks like something's turned around for him. I don't know if enough for him to go to another team and get a big contract or to become a starter. He'll have to compete. But if the Rams did make the deal for Zach Wilson, I'd go along with it as if they're going to ask my permission. I'd go along with it simply because it's McSnead. It's that admin, that front office making the move. So I want an edge player and not named Chase Young or Jadeveon Clowney. Okay. But I'd like to take a little run now that Josh Allen's been franchise tagged. Brian Burns has been franchise tagged. Some people are on the outs about whether or not how much you'd want to give a Daniel Hunter. Then how about the Jets' Bryce Huff, right? Undrafted free agent who really made a name for himself, picked up 10 sacks last year. He's on the market. I'd be curious to know what the Rams think of him. And I wouldn't mind getting a free agent edge. I really don't want an edge drafted at number 19. I don't want to move up in the draft for an edge. I just don't. Again, those guys take time to develop. Byron Young was just as good as Will Anderson was last year, right down in Houston, and so I don't want an edge in the first round. I want Ernest Jones extended, and I want the Rams to draft a high-end cornerback. I want that to happen. I feel like I'm giving my particulars when people come to a church. They want to know what I believe as pastor, so I have to tell them all my backgrounds. If the Rams do move up in the draft, which it's very possible, it's the Rams. Likely they'll move back. It's the Rams. It better be for an ultra elite O lineman like a Joe Alt. I'll dance with that. If they move up, give up next year's draft pick for a second rounder to move up or something. Hey, I'm down. I'm down with the get down. Always down for the offensive lineman, right? But you don't have to move up for a receiver. And everyone's getting all crazy about Rome Odunze. And I liken the Rams talking to Rome Odunze. He's a receiver who's out of their league. They're not going to get him. He's going to be gone long before number 19. But they just want to see what he's like, right? Just want to see what he's like. When we were teenagers, we bought the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. We were never going to date those girls, but we wanted to see what they were like. So they don't have to move up for receiver. There are receivers all over this draft. And yeah, so I want to get that corner, offensive lineman. Maybe if there's no Zach Wilson, there's no Carson Wentz, maybe in the first 100 they grab a quarterback. There we go. That's where I'm at on those things. All right, we'll talk some more Ram draft here in a second around the NFL and other places. The Denver Broncos. Think about this when everyone's saying, "Oh man, Russell Wilson, man." Look at his stats. He had a great year. You could look at Colin Kaepernick's stats in 2016, and his stats looked good too. But we all know stats are easily manipulated, right? When was the touchdown pass thrown? How many times was somebody throwing the ball when their team was losing? When did they throw their picks? In the first quarter or in the fourth? At midfield or in the red zone, right? There's so much to it. But as people were honking for Russell Wilson, I kind of like Russell Wilson, but towards the end there with Seattle, as I've shared with Ram fans before, he never scared me when the Rams played Russell Wilson. The backup quarterback, whoever that was for the 49ers, always scared me, but Russell Wilson never scared me. You could see him starting to fade a little bit late in his run in Seattle, and he struggled there. And he went to Seattle to cook. He went to Seattle to be the guy. And again, I go back to Russell Wilson. And we got new listeners, so I'll repeat this. I go back to Russell Wilson opening night in 2022. Nat Hackett is the head coach, and they're in Seattle, and Wilson's kind of taking him on the drive. It stalls, and they got a choice: go for it on fourth down, or kick a 66-yard field goal in Seattle, outdoors, on the road. And that's Tom Brady. That's Peyton Manning. There was a time when Russell Wilson was in that conversation as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's freed from Pete Carroll's conservative offensive approach. Why Russell Wilson agreed to that? Why Russell Wilson did say, no, we're keeping the offense on the field and wave them back, when that was the smarter thing to do than to try to kick a 66-yard field goal. I knew something about Russell Wilson just felt fraudulent there. It was like, no, not fraudulent in terms of character, but in terms of performance and confidence. And the Denver Broncos, just think about this. Even though he was better this year than he was in 2022, the Denver Broncos thought so much of Russell Wilson's season in 2023 that they took an 85 rock dead cap hit to get rid of him. They don't even care if he goes and plays with the Raiders, right? 85 rocks. No one has even come close to half of that. Well, yeah, I think the most is 40 with Matt Ryan. They've talked about that. But that's what the Denver Broncos and Sean Payton thought of Russell Wilson in terms of him being an NFL quarterback. An 85 rock cap hit, right? The Rams were out on Jared Goff after the 2020 season. But you know what? There was a market still for Jared Goff. Rams were out on him, but there was a market. And the Rams manipulated, with their draft picks and of course, Josh Allen himself, and agreeing to take on Jared Goff himself, and agreeing to take on, hold on to some of Goff's contract. The Rams did get a taker for Goff, and we got a Super Bowl out of it in Matthew Stafford. There was nothing the Broncos could do. They took an 85 rock dead cap hit to get rid of Russell Wilson. That tells you what people are thinking about Russell Wilson. Bunch of franchise tags. Ravens franchise tagged Justin Matabuke. Panthers Brian Burns. Bears Jalen Johnson, who was a hot corner to look at this offseason. Colts Michael Pittman. Jaguars Josh Allen, we mentioned that. Buccaneers and Antoine Winfield Jr., all of them franchise tagged. And, of course, L'Jarius Sneed was, before that, franchise tagged by the Chiefs. In the division, in the NFC West, the Seahawks made big changes, and these were the right changes. They put both Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs out in the street along with tight end Will Disley. They were overpaying. First, they paid 2 draft picks for Jamal Adams, let alone they were paying close to 20 rocks per Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. They were paying a lot of money to a position you shouldn't pay that much money to. And then they put Will Disley in the street. It saved them 24 rocks, gets them to around 36, so they got some money to spend. This was a smart move by the Seahawks. Might cause a little pain, but it was a very, very smart move by them. I just don't get in all the mock drafts how some of these experts, and I'm not slamming them because they're much more experts than I am. How do you not see the Seahawks drafting a quarterback in your mocks, right? In the mocks, you never see the Seahawks drafting a quarterback. And they're a team that I think could make a move to just get a little bit closer to draft a quarterback. If Michael Penix is the 6th quarterback left on the board, right, in this first 2 rounds, would the Seahawks let him pass by in the first round? Or I'm not sure where they pick in the second round. Let me see here where they pick in the second round. But this is a big deal. They've got picks 16, 78, and 81 in the first 100. So they're not going to get a second shot at a Michael Penix. Penix has got his offensive coordinator from Washington in Seattle. Penix lives in the Northwest. I mean, it's a good move. He's got great receivers there. I'm interested to see what the Seahawks do at quarterback. But whatever it is, they've loosened some dough up here by putting Diggs, Adams, and Disley in the street. Former Ram news, besides Darius Williams being put in the street, right guard David Edwards, who was on the left guard, for the Rams in 2021. He was extended by the Buffalo Bills to a 2-year deal. So good for David Edwards. He had a really bad concussion in the 2022 season. Remember, I think after game 4, game 5, he was toast. He was gone. He didn't play again. But he wasn't playing well before that, and the Rams moved off of him. Wisconsin, Rams, 4th round pick? Rams got a lot of clicks out of David Edwards. So good for him getting a contract. Tight end Zach Ertz signed with the Taxkins. And take this guy's name off the board. Kaimi Fairbairn, the kicker for the Houston Texans, was mentioned as going to the Rams. As the Rams, this would be a kicker the Rams would have interest in. Well, he signed a 3-year extension to stay with the Texans because that is a team on the ascent and on the rise. All right, I'm Joe Terosian. I see the questions, guys. I promise I'll get to it. I'm Joe Terosian. I was a sports writer for 21 years. I was one of the founding guys at Mid-Valley Sports. Those guys are still in the room covering the Chargers, Tim and Dwayne, and you can check them out at midvalleysports.com. And me, thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law and, of course, Temple City Auto, I get to do RamView. And so I'm blessed. I get to do RamView, talk about the Rams, and I write books. And my books are found on Amazon. I've written 2 high school football novels. They were received really well. They did well. And you can check them out on Amazon. I have a third football novel coming out called Game Day in the Ram Cave. And it's about a bunch of friends watching a football game. And we all know what can go on when we're watching an important football game. I'm hopefully to have that out in the spring. And so I do all that because my day job is I pastor a small church in Burbank Faith Nazarene. You can find us right here on YouTube at the Burbank Faith Virtual channel, burbankfaithvirtual.com, Burbank Faith Virtual all across social media. If you have any questions about that, feel free to contact me. But that's what I do. Thanks to you guys. And then the question was posed to me. I brought this up about 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to get to your guys' question, but I wanted to answer this. The advantage of not being in the room. And what we mean by being in the room is I am not any longer a credentialed member of the media. I covered a lot of stuff. Of course, most of my career was covering football when the Rams were gone. So I have not done in the room with the NFL. Oh, I've done a few things, but there is an advantage to this. And you learn this when you're dealing with colleges mostly, and probably sometimes in the NFL. I don't know. But when you're in the room, right, there are sometimes they kind of do things where they don't want you to say something, right? And when you're not in the room, you can say whatever you want. And I feel like when we're in this position, we're kind of like sleuths in a mystery, right? We're Hercule Poirot. And when you're outside the room, you're studying the team, studying the tendencies, seeing what they do. Where do they draft an offensive lineman? How often do they draft a quarterback? And I love that stuff because it keeps you diligent. It keeps you working hard. And then to try to figure something out before it happens, before somebody tips you off, that to me is the juice, man. That's the exciting part. So someone says, do you want to be in the room? I don't want to necessarily be in the room. I wouldn't mind being in the press box because I'm never going to pay for a ticket at SoFi, but Do I want to be inside? Not really. I don't, So there is something about this that's free, a little more freedom, and it's not bad. It's not bad. All right. Do you think the draft should be late or early? This is from Bill. Okay. Bro, I upset somebody. Okay. Do you think the draft should be later or earlier? And this is from Bill. And Bill, I like it where it's at. When you start studying history and you found out it used to be held in the fall of the same season that you were in. Like if you were in 1965, they'd hold it in the November of 65 or December. And then it was in January, late January, because Super Bowl was over by the first week of January. And then everything kept getting pushed back. I like it. And, it works for the NFL season, right? The NFL has moved the playoffs through January, the Super Bowl in February. You got a brief dead period before the new league season starts March 13th in March. Then you got the free agency period leading up to the draft period. Then you got the draft and you got OTAs. And so the NFL has figured this out where you got football year round, even though some of the most intriguing talk is right now as opposed to during the season. So thanks, Bill. Yeah, I do like it a little bit later. I like it maybe mid-April. We'll do better there. Broski, who I'm not sure who Broski is, man. I hate to lose a listener, but I guess I did. When I shared what I want, Broski said, okay, I'm out. No bueno on notebook. Okay. On note boom. There he goes. We got it. So Broski, I hope I can get you back, man. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. Bill, the rise in the cap really thinned out a lot of the good players that were available in the free agency. Absolutely. It changed a whole lot of things. And in one sense, it's great for the Rams, but it kind of bails out the 49ers. It kind of bails out the Seahawks. It kind of bails out the Cowboys. And I'm a bitter soul when it comes to some of those teams. And I don't want them bailed out. I want them stinking and lying, rotting in the earth, but that's just me. Manuel Correa, how are you doing? Manny, thank you. I'm doing good. I'm just battling the rain because sometimes it affects the streaming, but we're doing good, Talking Ram football. Thank you for asking. Mr. Burns, thoughts on Eckler to back up Kyrene? Good hands at running back, and it frees a draft pick to add O-line instead of running back in the later rounds. Rams got a bunch of draft picks in the later rounds, so I'm not worried about them, taking somebody. I think your idea a couple episodes ago about maybe getting in the fourth round because of the gap between pick 100 to 153. But I was actually looking at the running back free agents. It's part of the show here today, and because we're looking at the running back room, and let me see where it is. That starts at Derrick Henry at about 10.3, Josh Jacobs 10.5, Saquon Barkley 9.9. This is money, millions of what they're going to earn. Devin Singletary is 5.3, and that's Devin Singletary, who's a nice back, played in Houston and Buffalo. But Austin Eckler is going to want something above 5, and I don't want to give any running back more than 5. Do you? I do like Austin Eckler, but, he missed his window. Unfortunately, he did not have a good year last year, and it's a shame. But if the Rams could get him at a deal, then great. But would you pay him 4 rocks or 5 rocks to be a backup to Kyrene Williams right now? I don't think I would. I think I'd go with something later in the draft to just build up some depth there. That's what I'm thinking, Mr. Burns. Manuel Correa, you keep giving me these names. Check out Miles Cole, Texas Tech edge, 6'6", 275. That's a beast, man. I'm going to get my pen because sometimes this chat box disappears and stuff, but I'll check out Miles Cole. Tim Burns, I have always felt there was an underlying tone in Denver towards minorities. I don't pull the race card out, but I've always had a sense about it. I haven't lived in Denver enough or been to Denver enough. I know that 16th Street outdoor mall has been destroyed by the potheads. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel. It's a beautiful place, and it does not. Last time I was there, it was pretty raunchy. But this is the town that ran Marlon Briscoe out, right? And because Marlon Briscoe had that rookie year where he started at quarterback, and then they moved him out. I don't know what to say other than that. I just think I don't know, something about everyone hits on the first and third beat, and Russell Wilson hits on the second and fourth. That's all I can say in regards to that. I do know, again, this was the other thing. I talked about how Russell Wilson didn't stand up and say, hey, keep the field goal team off the field. We're going for it on fourth down. There was another moment last year. I think it was the game in Detroit. Was it Detroit? Where Sean Payton got in Russell Wilson's grill. Sean Payton's a great coach. He's been to 1 Super Bowl. Russell Wilson's been to 2. Maybe a bad play call keeps him from winning 2 Super Bowls. Russell Wilson has some credibility, has some cred there. I would not have let a coach embarrass me like that if I'm TJ Rubley and Ditka gets in my face, okay, I get it. But I'm Russell Wilson. I've been to 2 Super Bowls and I've won one. And all that since the Saints have been to the Super Bowl with Sean Payton. I would not have let a coach like that dress me down. I'd have gotten back in his grill. And just for the mere sake that I'm a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback, and you don't dress down the team leader like that publicly. And so I know Sean Payton, everyone loves Sean Payton, and I get it. He's a great coach, but he whiffed on that one. And Russell Wilson whiffed because he didn't push back. That should have been close to a brawl because he was dressing him down publicly. Manuel Carrillo, cool, love reading. Oh, man, please do. Tangent Dreams, where's my Tangent Dreams book at? There it is. It's right there. Tangent Dreams. I can sell some books. Tangent Dreams right there on Amazon. Check it out. It's also available in Kindle. And up there, you can see it. I think you can see it. Temple City Company of the Ages, always selling books. USA expat, McVay may need an early OTA just for his new coaching staff. Oh, yeah, you think, man? And remember they said there weren't going to be any changes, and then everyone just started hopping and bopping and jumping ship. Yeah, he needs a retreat, right? That draft house they have, that they dress up every year or whatever. He needs to go to the draft house and just have some pizza with those dudes. But the thing that's encouraging about that, his tree is so successful outside of Brandon Staley, but his tree is so successful and everyone wants to work with McVay because he's their ticket, right? So you got to believe he's getting the best of the best. So that's pretty cool. Tim Burns, I would love to trade down with Tampa and grab an extra pick, has suggested in media thoughts from 19 to 26. Oh, yeah, I am not against that. The player that was being ticketed to the Rams early on in the whole draft process back in January was Kool-Aid McKinstry, right? And since then, McKinstry has fallen to the back of the first round and even to the second round. And where you see him going a lot is at number 27 to Arizona. And so there's depth here. And I don't think you need to move up for the corner or the receiver, but for a great offensive lineman, yeah, I think I'd be tempted. But get more picks in the top 100. I'm down with the get down on that. Okay, guys, if you have any other questions, please fire them at me. I'm happy to answer them. Hopefully I can get Broski back. Okay, updates. Rams running back room. Great segue there, Mr. Burns. You brought it up. Rams running back room currently is Kyren Williams, Ronnie Rivers, and Zach Evans. You've got a 6th rounder, a 5th rounder, and an undrafted free agent who's tough guy in Ronnie Rivers. Royce Freeman is a free agent. And so the free agent running backs that are out there, the Rams aren't going to go anywhere near, you wouldn't think, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley. I think Saquon Barkley is a little bit overrated. Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler, even a Devin Singletary. One guy that did interest me because his projected cost is only 3.5 rocks, and that's A.J. Dillon with the Packers, or leaving the Packers. Get him for 1 year, have him be physical a little bit. Maybe. Other than that, I'd look to the draft. And I will agree with what Mr. Burns said is that, yeah, maybe between 100 and 153, no picks in the 4th round. And those running backs are going to start to go off the board in the 3rd round. And by the 4th round, anything that you're going to want right away is going to be a little bit depleted. So yeah, maybe some move there. The best running backs, the highest running back projected is Trey Benson. On a draft board, he's listed as the 60th best prospect, which means he's a late 2nd rounder maybe. Then there's Texas's Jonathan Brooks, Michigan's Blake Corum. All those guys are going to be gone by the time the Rams draft. But a few guys that did not have a great combine, like Audric Estime out of Notre Dame. He interviewed with the Rams. I'm not going to say interviewed well. He interviewed with him. I don't know if it was well or not. Jalen Wright, Tennessee, and Marshawn Lloyd of USC. These guys could be late 4th round, early 5th round guys, someone to keep an eye on. Another name that keeps getting linked to the Rams is Kentucky running back Ray Davis. There's a big backstory there with him. And if there's a, strong run at running back, we'll see, because there's still a lot of receivers. We're going to see if Davis is still there. He was projected late 4th round. One name, and the rest of the names are kind of unfamiliar, but I thought I'd throw this one out because I figure since we're on the West Coast, one name that may be familiar that's not linked to the Rams, I have not seen it linked anywhere, was Washington Husky running back Dylan Johnson. He's projected in the 6th round. Just wanted to get that out there. I think the Rams do need to pick up another running back. I'm really hoping Zach Evans develops, because I think Zach Evans might have the most talent of all the running backs. But if you can't block, if you can't work pass pro, you're not going to get on the field. So I hope he's having a really special offseason, learning how to pick up the blitz and learning how to block, so we can see, this talent, right? He was 4 guys we were told were the steal of the draft last year, right? Avila, Byron Young, and Puka Nacua. We were told they were going to be steals of the draft, and they feel like steals of the draft. Zach Evans was another guy that was mentioned, and of course he didn't play very much. So I'm anxious to see what we got in Zach Evans. So I'd hate to see us commit to too much. I wouldn't have a problem bringing Royce Freeman back, and I definitely don't have a problem drafting, maybe moving into the 4th round, giving away couple of those 6th round picks to get into the 4th round, or 5th round, drafting another running back. So just keep popping them off, right? Just keep popping them off. The way Kyren Williams runs, the way he's been banged up, it's an awful thing to say. He's going into his 3rd season, after his 3rd and 4th season, what kind of shape is he going to be in? And do you want to extend him? And we know, unless you're Todd Gurley or Steven Jackson, you're not going to extend too many running backs. Okay. Rams players, I try to update who they've interviewed just to throw them out there for you. Washington edge, Braylon Trice, Texas linebacker, Jalen Ford. He's a late round pick. He's projecting 7th round right now. Rome Odunze. But what I didn't know, and I scoured the boards for interviews, and these are confirmed interviews. At the combine, the Rams did interview Oregon quarterback Bo Nix. Just something to think about. And they interviewed Estime out of Notre Dame. So I know some people were really hot on him early on, and so it is a name to keep on there. Rams have 11 picks. Right now they're sitting at 19, 52, 83, and 100. And then they don't pick again until 153, 154, 177. And then in the 6th round, they have 4 picks, 191, 212, 217, and 218. All right, I looked at Charles Davis's mock draft. Charles Davis on NFL Network, NFL.com, real likable guy. His top 10 looks the same. Bears, Texans, Patriots, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Marvin Harrison, the Cardinals. One bounce instead of Joe Alt that other people had. He has Rome Odunze going to the Chargers, and JJ McCarthy going to the Giants at number 6. Joe Alt, the Notre Dame tackle, going to the Titans at 10. Malik Neighbors drops to number 9, the LSU receiver. So the Bears would get Caleb Williams and Malik Neighbors. That's not a bad combo there. And then looking forward here, Davis has Bo Nix going to the Broncos. Quinyon Mitchell going to the Colts at 15. The Seahawks getting help in the interior, and Byron Murphy in Texas, which makes a lot of sense. Jaguars, Brian Thomas out of LSU. J.C. Latham, who's been anywhere from like 6 or 7 to number 18. He's 18 going to Alabama, from Alabama going to the Bengals, according to Charles Davis. And then a couple of interesting ones here. Brock Bowers, number 21, going to the Dolphins. Chop Robinson, 22, to the Eagles. Nate Wiggins, 23, going to the Texans. At 19, it's not, to me, it doesn't feel very inspired. He has the Rams taking Leatu Latu, the edge from UCLA. I just don't like an edge at number 19. And also in this draft, Jackson Powers Johnson, number 26 to Tampa Bay. He said he wanted to go to Miami. Well, Tampa Bay is close enough. And then the Cardinals, Kool-Aid McKinstry at number 27. Oh, he drank the Kool-Aid. He moved Xavier Worthy. Charles Davis moved Xavier Worthy after his record-setting performance at the Combine. He moved him to number 32 in the draft. Okay. Looking through the Rams schedule here, Rams play the Jets next year in New York. We've talked about this. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers is back, but how good will he be? They've got issues along the offensive line, and they need another weapon at wide receiver or tight end. Jets were 7-10 last year. And by the way, everyone talked about them. You would have thought they were 4-13, right? And they lost their starting quarterback 4 plays into the season. 7-10. I mean, that's interesting. They went 7-10. But again, you hear them talked about it. Were they 4-13 or 2-15? I think they did the right thing by hanging on to Saleh. I don't know if Matt Hackett's the guy they should have held on to. They have home games, of course, against the Bills, Dolphins, Patriots. They play the Texans, Colts, Rams, Seahawks, Broncos. All those games, with exception of one, could be losses. Then, of course, they are on the road, they have the Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jaguars, Titans, Cardinals, 49ers, Steelers, Vikings. It's going to be a rough road for the Jets unless they get someone to guard Aaron Rodgers' blind side. They better keep Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson healthy. Yeah, something to think about there when you talk about the Jets. Okay, on this date,
It was a stone group, my man.
it's been a stone groove, but we're not done yet. On this date, March 6th, in 1997, the Rams signed Craig Ironhead Hayward and some kicker named Jeff Wilkins. Now, unfortunately, Hayward even though he appeared in all 16 games for the Rams, he rushed for less than 100 yards. His best days were behind him, and sadly, he passed away at the age of 39 in 2006. I think it was a brain tumor. But that unknown kicker, Jeff Wilkins, spent the next 11 seasons with the Rams and is the greatest kicker in team history. He scored 1,223 points, and the next closest is Greg Zuerlein with 867. No one's touching Jeff Wilkins anytime soon. I think people would be surprised if you said, who's the leading scorer in Rams history? And Jeff Wilkins, man, that guy had a heck of a career for the Rams. We love Greg the Leg. We like Mike Lansford. But Jeff Wilkins, man, that guy could deliver, and he was special. It's unfortunate that after the Rams, when the Greatest Show on Turf thing went down, that he didn't get more opportunities to kick in big games. But that was a great signing by the Rams. Born on this day in 1928 was Deacon Dan Towler, running back. He's often confused with Tank Younger. When you see Deacon Dan Towler in the old highlights, he's wearing number 32. Tank Younger wore 13 or 35, okay? Deacon Dan Towler played for the Rams from 1950 through 1955. He was part of the Bull Elephant backfield. Now, I knew about him, of course, Ram fans, you guys do. I'm not pandering to you, but this is a great read. Derek Ciapala hosts Rams Talk, and he helped participate in the writing of this book, or the editing of this book called The Los Angeles Rams 1951. It's about the championship season, how that team was put together. If you get a chance to get that, it's not super cheap, but if you get that on Amazon, check that out. See, I can hawk some of these books besides mine. And it talks about Deacon Dan Towler and that Bull Elephant backfield of Towler, Tank Younger, and Dick Horner. Towler had monster seasons with the Rams from 51 through 53, won a title draft pick out of a place called Washington. He was Cullen Bryant before Cullen Bryant, wearing number 32. And here's the other interesting thing is Tank Younger, who people confuse Deacon Dan Towler with, he went to Grambling State, right? Another wild find by the Rams. And Deacon Dan Towler was 6'3", 225. He played 9 seasons for the team. Now, Dick Horner, who was the other part of the Bull Elephant backfield, he was 6'4", 224. Those guys have great size for 2024. What do you think they were doing to the league in 1951 while playing with Bob Waterfield, Norm Van Brocklin, Tom Fears, Elroy Hirsch, and Bob Boyd? No wonder they won the title. They probably should have won a few more, but that's how great the Cleveland Browns were. Unfortunately, Deacon Dan Towler passed away August 1st, 2001, and Tank Younger passed away just 1 month later in September of 2001. Lastly, we're not on the air tomorrow, and I wanted to throw this out there real quick. In 2013, on this day, Steven Jackson declined his option for the upcoming 2013 season. And after 8 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons for the Rams, he ended up signing with the Atlanta Falcons. Ram fans say, oh, I don't care about St. Louis. Well, if you don't care about St. Louis, then you don't get to celebrate Steven Jackson, right? Let alone the world championship. Steven Jackson, another day, another age, another team. He's in the Hall of Fame already. What a great running back he was. Would you want him with this Ram team right now? Oh, for a Steven Jackson. Just wanted to throw that out there. That was on March the 7th, 2013. On March the 7th, 2006, and we'll leave it at this, the Rams signed Leroy Glover. Guys remember Leroy Glover? It was late in his career. He had been drafted in the 5th round back in 96 by the Raiders. He ended up in New Orleans and Dallas, and he made 6 Pro Bowls, was all pro 1 year, 83.5 sacks, 17 in 2000. And he wasn't bad for the Rams, but he only had 12 sacks for the Rams. He was an interior lineman, nice career. I think he became a coach, but it was just one of those too late signings, okay? And then tomorrow, let's just acknowledge a few birthdays. I spoke his name a minute ago. Born on March the 7th, 1928, Bob Boyd, wide receiver out of Loyola Marymount. He was like the 3rd receiver on those great Ram teams in the 50s. He averaged for a career 20.5 yards per catch, 28 touchdowns, and he was on the 51 title team. And then Kent Hill was born in 1957. So Kent Hill is 67 today. He was a great draft pick for the Rams, all pro with the Rams, and they knew when to move him because they sent him to Houston in the Jim Everett deal, and he was pretty much done after that. Born on this day, born on March 7th in 1965, Flipper Anderson, 1968, Ricky Prohl, 1995, Pharaoh Cooper. That would be a heck of a draft right there, Flipper Anderson and Ricky Prohl. All right, I think we got it all out there. Cool. Let's check out. There's some more questions here, a couple more. Did Staley get hired by the 49ers? Yes, Brandon Staley was hired by the 49ers, not as their DC, Bill. Bill's asking that question, but he's a special assistant coach or something like that. He's an assistant coach. It's interesting. Nick Sorensen, who spent, a brief stint with the Rams back in the early 2000s in St. Louis, he worked in Seattle for 8 years. And so he's familiar with the Rams, and now he's the 49ers DC. And then, of course, Brandon Staley familiar with the Rams. That's interesting. And Brandon Staley running his Vince Fangio defense, and the 49ers running a down 4, a little bit different there. But you really get the idea the 49ers just want people that are familiar with the Rams, because Sorensen, obviously, in Seattle all those years, would be familiar with the Rams. So, yeah, Staley is is in Frisco. There we go. Manuel Correa, Allen from Wisconsin. Are we talking? Tell me, clear that one up for me, Manuel, and I'll answer it for you real quick. I'm drawing a blank. DHP, hopefully Noteboom will restructure his contract. If not, cut him. I understand that completely. I understand it. It's just my whole thing is I'm not going to be mad or anything. My whole thing is I just want depth on that offensive line. I just want depth because, again, Alaric Jackson can go down. Havenstein is getting older. Someone can go down, and I'd rather see Joe Noteboom come into the game than Warren McClendon, right? That's kind of where am I at? I understand it. Manuel Correa, it's part of our history. I'm just drawing a blank right now, Manuel. I'm sorry. On terms of the Allen from Wisconsin. Why am I blanking on Allen from Wisconsin? I don't know why. Okay, Tim Burns. Going to stress that having 3 picks close together, I would get an NFL-level kicker that will be around 2 decades in Stanford's Joshua Carty. Yeah, some special team guys are just worth it. Hey, I agree. I would draft 3 kickers with those last 3 picks. And we've talked about Carty. 2 misses inside the 50 in 3 years? one missed extra point in 3 years. Yeah. Where do I sign up? Get me Cardi right now, right? I don't know if I want him drafted on the first day, but somewhere by Sunday, I want him under contract with the Rams. Daniel Correa, Allen is the running back. Why am I blanking right now? Help me. I am blanking on Allen as the running back. It's maybe because I'm so caught up in my notes. Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. There we go. Right. He could be available. You're absolutely right. Man, Correa, you do your work, dude. You do your work. God bless you. Yeah, I will look up Braylon Allen, I promise. Tim Burns, before you grew to be a Rams fan, who was your favorite non-Rams player and team? Mine was Tony Dorsett from the Hated Cowgirls. Hey, anybody that hates the Cowgirls is okay with me. Who was my my introduction was the Rams. So, I liked Lawrence McCutcheon and then Harold Jackson, Harold Jackson, October 14th, 1973 against the Cowboys. In fact, my book is dedicated to Harold Jackson, Dick Enberg, and Al Clark after that Cowboy win over the Cowboys in 1973, because that was kind of like molded me for life. But outside, who I really liked? I really liked Terry Metcalf. I loved Terry Metcalf and the Cardinals, right? I know that seems really weird. I loved Terry Metcalf. I just thought, man, he was great. And I liked Mel Gray. And then Jackie Smith was really tough and stuff. So I always, I was rooting for the Cardinals in 74 and 75 when they made the playoffs. And of course, it didn't work out. Not in 75 against the Rams, but I was rooting for those teams. I kind of like Jim Hart, but Jim Hart was kind of like a prehistoric Jared Goff, right? He was good enough, but just not quite good enough, right? And so, I liked him. Who else did I like? I like the name. I was big on Jefferson Street Joe Gilliam. I liked Brian Sipe. I liked Greg Landry, but he could never stay healthy. Right. So, that was it for me. Okay. Manuel Correa, Jack Snow also. My brother was a huge Jack Snow fan. He still is. I think his love for Cooper Kupp is channeling his Jack Snow. He still sees Jack Snow when he sees Cooper Kupp. Right. And Jack Snow was great. Again, I'm not going to say he was at the level of Steven Jackson as a running back, but Jack Snow, in another day and age, how would Jack Snow be viewed, right? He's in that 3 yards in a cloud of dust era, but how would Jack Snow be, and even Jack Snow, say, playing in the AFL where the offense was more wide open. I don't think Jack Snow had a 50-catch season for the Rams, right? I don't think he caught 50. I think his big year was 49, but he was so consistent for so long. Jack Snow's a great story. He went to St. Anthony High School. One of the coaches I used to cover, he told me he went to high school with him. And Jack Snow used to tell him when they're in high school, he says, I'm going to play for the Rams. I'm going to play for the Rams. And of course, he started at Notre Dame and got drafted by the Vikings. But before he could play it down, he was traded to the Rams. Really interesting story there. Tim Burns, oddly, my wife had Pineapple as a high school friend too. Loving Tangent James. Really? There's a character in my book named Pineapple. So she went to school with Pineapple. Just make sure he stays appropriate, because the Pineapple I knew wasn't very appropriate sometimes. USA expat. My dad took me to my first NFL game in Oakland before nets were put behind the goalpost. Lots of fights for the ball. In Oakland? My gosh, that's like a Texas death match there in Oakland with no nets. Man, that's pretty serious stuff. That's pretty serious stuff. The Coliseum used to get a little bit rowdy in the mid-'70s when I would go there to see the Rams play. There'd be some fights breaking out. Just something about 90,000 people being, all forced together can cause an issue. But I'm going to tell you something, USA expat. I don't know if you were a Raider fan or not, but I did like the Raiders up through about 76. I did love that team. Of course, they did me a favor and they beat the Vikings in Super Bowl 11, one of my favorite Super Bowls to watch because it was at the Rose Bowl. But that Sea of Hands game, I saw that game from start to finish. That thing was a monster, man. That thing was one of the greatest. I mean, that was just a great game. So I give kudos to you. And okay, USA expat, Rams only, Mr. T. Okay, I'll give that to you. Manuel Correa, my first Ram game was 1969 Christmas playoff game against the Vikings. Oh man. So you know pain, Manuel. You know, one of the guys that clicks on, it's one of our regular watchers, is a guy named Steve Ramirez, and he was a sports writer for a number of years at the San Gabriel Valley Tribune. Good dude. Perfect talent in terms of a sports writer, just a grinder. And Steve goes back to the 69 season. He's a couple years older than me. And I miss that. I miss that pain. I know about the 11-0 start. I read the Gabriel book from that year called Player of the Year. But yeah, he talks about that being great pain in 69. You remember it at the age of 5. Good for you, Mr. Correa. All right, we're the same age. Tim Burns, I saw 4 Samoans roasting a pig in the parking lot in Oaktown. Crazy world. Okay. All right. Hey, guys, it is 50 minutes, and I try to keep this at 50 minutes. I've had a lot of fun. I love talking to you guys. But thank you so much for everyone that's clicked on, that followed us. If anyone knows Broski, tell him I'll apologize. Tell him to come home, and we'll accept him back here. I don't want to offend anybody by mentioning Joe Noteboom. I said Joe Noteboom. It's not like I said, Georgia Frontieri, right? I should get a little latitude there, right? I said Joe Noteboom. I didn't say Greg Robinson, right? Anyway, okay. Guys, I hate to leave, even though we got people watching. I can talk all day, but I'm going to let you go. I'm Joe Terosian. Thank you so much. Check us out on Spotify. I want to say thank you to our sponsors, especially Kistler Law. You can see them over my shoulder here, right there. Thanks to them, I get to do this, and it's a lot of fun. Shoot your questions to me, and we will go forward from here. Looking forward to see you on Friday. Shoot me your mock draft, and I'll shoot you mine. Okay, God bless. Take care, and we will talk to you soon.